How many of us would love for God to bring out a wholeness in us? How many of us would love for God to do a thing that he's never done before? And maybe it's because we didn't realize that he needed to work on this specific thing in us. Or maybe we've been so resistant to him chiseling away at those parts of us that don't look like him. We try to take the tools from him, the master sculptor, the potter to our clay. We try to do a better job and say, no, God, take a little bit off of the nose. And he's like, no, I crafted it that way intentionally. God, take a little bit off of the love handles. There's an imperfection there that's going to bring me glory. I need you to not be so prideful in who you look like, but as to who you look to. If only we would allow God to take the chisel back. Not keeping it for ourselves or giving it to people that shouldn't have it. Giving it to that boyfriend or girlfriend that did you so wrong, that you gave a little bit too much of yourself to, that you let sully your good name, that friend that dishonored you, and because of that, now you're bitter and don't let anybody be your friend, and now you're closed off to the world, and now you have a walls of Jericho specifically for each and every person that comes into your contact, and no matter how many times you march around it, how many times someone else marches around it, it just won't fall because you don't want it to. We need to start letting God be our shaper. Let the Holy Spirit do its work in us. Let the Holy Spirit conform us. Bring us out of the worldliness that we've lived in. Bring us out of the ideals that we think are good. Bring us out of the will that we have set up for ourselves. That's not going to bring us to the place that God ultimately wants us to be. If I had my own will, God knows where I would be right now. My wife, I always joke with her that I would love to be a detective because I love SVU, Law and Order. She says, no, you need to come home at night. Maybe I would try to go into acting. Me and Pastor Caleb, we used to try to do some skits back in the day. We used to write, we used to act. We have a couple movies under our belt. You guys will never see them, but we got a movie. I was the starring actor in one of them. It's a thing. Sister Denique remembers. I don't know where I would be if I went by my own will. Some people have a much darker path where they would be out in the world, trafficked, taken advantage of, on the third spouse, in jail, locked up for being in a place they shouldn't be, and not because of something they did, but who they associated with. How about we allow God to let the Holy Spirit work in us and break us to the place where we begin to look like him and talk like him and love like him and think like him? Because I don't know about you, but for me, not so much what I do, but what I think trips me up. I feel like my heart is in the right place at times, but sometimes my mind, and as a man thinketh, man does. And then Jesus, sometimes I feel like with the audacity only God could have, comes and says, not only if you commit adultery, but if you think about it, not only if you think about hating your friend, not even if you hate him, if you think about it, not even if you steal, but if you think about it, he raises the level of standard so high that it's near impossible to achieve it because there's so much that we fall into. Not only is it if we do it, it's if we think it. Not is it just if we say it, but if it's in our hearts. And that's where the Holy Spirit comes in. We reached a sermon series a couple years back about the fruit of the Spirit, and we spoke about how the Holy Spirit brings in us love, peace, joy, kindness, goodness, all of these things, self-control, that allow us to begin to look like him. So maybe our thoughts don't seem as toxic as they used to be. That our way is breaking so much that we don't respond in the same way. Maybe we don't respond immediately, but we don't respond as bitter. We don't respond as hurt. We don't respond as jaded, but we respond in love. We respond as if we are children of the Most High God.